Good afternoon. This is Drew Erickson talking about money, not math, because I believe most people love money without realizing that it often doesn't work the same way as math. Don't know, I must be having connection issues. That's why my computer is so dark, or my video is so dark, or my computer just was getting sick of looking at me. But today I am reading and highlighting the article, The 4 Realities of Retirement Spending That You Need to Know Now on usatoday.com. So the first reality they talk about is your retirement spending will fall in retirement. And they talk about how essentially in the beginning years of retirement, you're more likely to travel and go and do different things. And as you get older, you do less things, so you spend less money. And they cite basically a survey they did of the different amounts that people spent from the ages of 50 to 64, 65 to 74, and 75 and older. The second part of the article, they talk about the percent spent on healthcare rises. So essentially, which makes sense, the older you get, the more likely you're going to have medical costs, the more likely you're going to spend more money on medical costs and unexpected health events, right? So in the first one, they're talking about how you're probably going to slow down. The second point, you're probably going to spend more on medical costs. And the third point they talk about is housing is your largest spending category. I think this brings up an important point within it. First, they talk about how housing is one of the largest spending categories, and they break down the costs within people's expenses and the ratios and things like that. And that's really important for us to understand from an expense standpoint, is how are we planning on funding our living a situation while we're in retirement? Are we going to stay in our current home? Are we going to move to a smaller home? Are we going to change what state we live in? And things like that. It's a really important point or thing to understand. And here's a point they make that is, I think, very important for us to highlight and review and really consider for ourselves individually. They say consider downsizing. Doing so could free up some of the equity in your home to help fund your retirement. And you might spend less on maintenance, utilities, property taxes, things like that. And they also say it's a good idea to pay off your mortgage before you retire. And here's where the question comes in. So even though paying off your mortgage before you retire might be a good option, is it the best one? Because the difference between amortized interest, right? Amortized interest is the more you pay more interest early on, and the longer you pay debt, the less interest is involved, compared to compounding interest, right? Where the longer you save, the faster it grows. If you took the extra dollars that you could have allocated towards paying off your mortgage faster and instead allocated them towards savings for retirement, would it create more retirement cash flow to save that money than the amount of money you'll save on a housing payment by paying your house down faster? Okay, so they're saying you should pay off your house faster just to get rid of the payment. But what I'm saying is maybe it makes more sense to save those extra dollars rather than paying off your house because of the compounding interest effect and the fact that you might create more cash flow by saving the money, which will outweigh the paying off the debt. Now, I don't know this for sure. It depends on everyone's situation, but that's where we really need to consider what makes the most sense for you personally, because housing payments are often the lowest interest debt we're going to have. The last one is more spending on gifts, less on food. And they talk about, so this is the fourth point, they talk about how as we get older, we often less spend money on food and spend more money on gifts and things like that. So I think all 4 of these points are interesting to consider, but they're very generalized, and they use different surveys of what's going on for people today to project out what you should consider for yourself. And I think that's okay. It's an okay idea to use these different surveys and these different generalized pieces of advice for us to think about. But at the end of the day, we have to take a very specific approach to our own planning. And it's kind of hilarious because they actually say that, right? So they spend pretty much the whole article highlighting different generalized pieces of advice and different surveys of mass amounts of people, right? Which we're all our own individual, so mass amounts of people doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be the same as them. But one part of the article completely contradicts that. So they say 2 takeaways. 1, you might save more than you need if you base your retirement savings plan off a rule of thumb. Okay, so right there, they agree that if you use rules of thumb, you might save more. However, side note, I would rather have too much saved than not enough saved. And then they said, second, a personalized retirement income plan is your best option. In general, the use of rule of thumb ratios break down when applied to different age and income demographics. You need something more personalized when planning your retirement income needs. The 80% replacement ratio rule of thumb is not universal. So, like I said, it's kind of hilarious that the two articles of this whole two paragraphs of this whole article are telling you that you need to have a very personalized planning approach, but then the rest of the article gives very generalized and piece of advice with using surveys to back up their information. So hopefully this conversation was valuable for you today. Please let me know what you think by leaving a comment in the comment section, and share it with a friend if you found the video valuable. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.